So I am joined now by actor Nicholas Pinnock. Nicholas is a British actor. He's known for his roles as lead character Aaron Wallace in the American legal drama For Life, and Leon in award-winning Channel 4 drama Top Boy, Jason Buckland in ITV's Marcella, and can now be seen in Sky Atlantic's new series Django. Why am I playing Ennio Morricone in the background? Well, we'll find out after. I think I should probably fade it down right now. But hello, Nicholas, and welcome to the show.
Hello, Maria. Thank you. Glad to be on.
Oh, it's a joy. Now, I've got to ask a bit about Django. Am I even saying it correctly? I'm always worried that I'm not saying, the pronunciation right. Is that right?
No, it's Django, yeah.
It is?
We had a lot of discussion about, the pronunciation, but it is as it is. It's Django, yeah.
Now, it's on Sky Atlantic. The series is based on the original 1966 spaghetti western.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about this series, about your character, John Ellis, his role in this series.
So this reimagining of Django based on the 1966 movies is exactly that. It's modern themes set in the style of a Western. Some of the old typical Western tropes are there, but you're also dealing with transgender, you're dealing with bisexuality, you're dealing with African Americans who have never really been prominent in the genre of Westerns. You have women who are at the forefront of Westerns. Typically, in the Western genre, it's this white European narrative that has come forward from the male perspective. Now you have women, now you have other people coming forward and being a real prominent part of the story. And that's where John enters into the fray. He's this man who was born into enslavement, who found his freedom, discovered this plot of land, got given this plot of land and discovered that it had potential to be a safe haven for people like himself and other misfits, if you like, or people who have been ostracized or othered in society. And he wanted a safe space for people to come and feel like they belong and actually really thrive. And his ambition was to start there and, make it grow and grow and grow.
Where was it filmed?
It was filmed in Romania. Now, that's the second Western that I filmed in Romania because the landscape looks very, very much like it did back then. And it's also a hell of a lot cheaper to film in Romania than it is in anywhere in America where those landscapes still exist. What Europe has, what Eastern Europe has, especially Romania, they have such a great infrastructure for film and for television in ways that other countries just don't. They're so experienced out there, and they've got a great production team, great crews. And it was wonderful working out there with them.
Well, actually, I never realised. Now, my dad was a big spaghetti western fan, and I did play Ennio Morricone in the opening there because, we always had Ennio Morricone cassettes around the house. And I always thought that they were these American, even though they were called spaghetti westerns, I always thought that they were American westerns that my dad would make us watch with Bud Spencer and Terence Hill. And they weren't. They were Italian, they were all made in Italy, which really surprised me.
Hence why spaghetti was put in front of the western, because it was basically it was made by Europeans for Europeans in Europe. And that's exactly what we've done with Django. It was made by Cattleya and Atlantique in Italy and in France. A whole European cast for the European market.
Oh, that
so
sounds absolutely awesome.
A tip and an homage to how spaghetti westerns were made.
And where did you learn to ride a horse? Was it for another role or purely something that interested you? Because, we went to school together. I know there were no horse riding lessons in the back streets of
There were definitely no horses where we went to school, for sure. So I had done the other western that I mentioned earlier on that I shot in Romania. That's where I perfected my skill of horse riding, was for another western 10 years ago called The Keeping Room.
Wow.
I had lessons previous to that, but never really got into horses. Always loved horses, but then I fell in love with horses and horse riding 10 years ago. So I've been riding for quite a while, and it came in handy when Django came about.
So you kept it, oh, even though that was 10 years ago, you sort of kept that the flow, the interest in doing
Oh, I've
that.
been writing ever since, in my spare time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for me, it's,
Amazing.
there's so many things about horse riding that I love that it's something I do in my downtime for sure.
Now, you've played an array of characters on stage and screen. Do any of them have, a bit of a thread, a recurring characteristic? Because they all seem so different.
Yeah, they're all a bit messed up in some kind of way. And if you notice, I don't really do comedies. And I don't play the love interest. It's always, men who are complex and quite convoluted in their characteristics and in some way quite dangerous or on the edge of some kind of way.
And being an actor, what motivates you? I mean, what sort of gets you up at 4 a.m. in those early morning calls?
Insomnia, mental health issues. Take
No
your
trouble
pick.
getting up
Take
then.
your pick. No, I don't sleep very much. So I'm often up at 4:30 in the morning thinking. And if I'm on a job, I'm thinking, how can I develop this character more? These scenes that I've got coming up, in a few hours.
Yeah.
What is it that I need? And I remember that thing from yesterday that I need to. A lot of things. So me getting up for an early call is never usually an issue.
And what's been the hardest accent you've had to master? Because that's another thing. I've seen you in many things, and I feel like it's always a different voice, Nicholas.
I think we've spoken a few times while I've been away, and I've had an American accent. Um, what's been the hardest accent? That is a good question. My own, I find the hardest actually. Yeah, and I tell you why, because I'm conscious of trying to separate myself from a character that is very similar to me. Playing someone like you is harder than playing someone not like you because you can easily step into just being yourself, and that's something I never want to really do on screen. But like I'm sure we've all got friends or family members that someone reminds us of, or there's someone at work that reminds me of someone in my friend circle. They don't know each other, but they're very similar. They dress alike, they sound alike, they look alike. There's all those sorts of things. So it's possible that there are people out there that look and sound like me. But when I'm creating a character and I'm wanting to step into a sense of reality that isn't real, it's hard for me to separate me from someone that's close to me, and hard for me to give the audience a very, very different version of myself when I sound like me and I look like me, if that makes
Yeah, I
sense.
see what you're saying. Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, many successful people, when they talk, they mention someone in their life that was a great mentor. Is there anyone for you that has been instrumental in your growth?
Very good question and a hard one to answer. Along the different stages of my career, there have been various people who have not only inspired me, but have championed me, supported me in so many different ways. It's very
Yeah.
difficult to pinpoint one. I think, I started off, as you know, as a child, and then that transition from child to 16, where you no longer need a chaperone. Then that
Yeah.
transition from 16 to, in your 20s when you start getting bigger roles, and then you transition from your 20s into your 30s, your mid 30s, where you start to really, shift gears and play very significant roles. Along the way, there have been different people in that journey that have
Wow.
really, really given me so much support and really good advice and allowed me to breathe within that transition and support me through it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, at some point when I go to collect an award, I will name all of these people. But until then, I'm going to keep them all under wraps, and I want them to be celebrated publicly as I may be. So, yeah.
Well, following on from that, what is the best piece of advice someone has given you?
Oh, okay. So one of my mentors, she's incredible. And when I first transitioned into being an adult actor, I was, clean shaven, and everything was neat and tidy, and it was very, very preened and specific looking. And I was going up for roles, but the roles that I was inevitably getting were, the love interest, or, for want of a better phrase, the pretty boy, all that sorts of stuff. So there was never really any weight behind the characters that I was being considered for. And
Right.
when she initially said what she said, I was quite offended because I thought, oh, that's it was I felt it was like a besmirchment on my looks and my choice to how to engage in the world. And what she said
Yeah.
was, stop looking so pretty, stop looking so preened, and stop looking so together, so put together. She said, let yourself go. Have a bit of edge, have a bit of roughness about you. Look like a real person. And she said that with all the love, because she's still one of my mentors now, and
Yeah.
I'm highly grateful for her being in my life. But I was really initially quite offended because, it's like, well, you're criticizing the choice I've made on how to take care of myself. But what I did after I got over myself, my ego, went to sleep. I started to grow a beard and grew out my hair. I then got some pictures taken and decided that I was gonna, be a bit,
It's a great look.
be a bit rougher. What happened was genius because it completely shaped and changed how the industry saw me and what they thought I was then capable of doing purely on how I presented myself in my images.
It's
It then
incredible,
got to
isn't
a
it? They
point
say
where,
like a headshot
yeah, absolutely.
can get you a
Oh,
job.
it really can.
Absolutely.
So after that, the hair and the beard got me not only the work that I wanted to do with the types of gravitas that came with it, but it got me in the room and it got me booked.
Well, thank you, Nicholas, for taking the time. We're going to do, to end, we're going to do a quick fire question
Okay.
round. Yeah? You ready? So, let's start. Stage or screen?
Difficult one for different reasons. I would say stage.
Learn lines fluently or a bit of improvisation?
Bit of improvisation.
Binge watch or take your
Binge
time?
watch.
Rehearse a scene or straight in?
Oh, depending on the scene, but rehearse. That's the theatre thing again.
Yeah. Period drama or modern day?
Period drama all day long. Modern day doesn't have horses.
Uh, book or film?
Book or film? Book.
A musical or play?
Play.
And finally, if you weren't an actor, what job do you think you'd be doing?
I'd be a photographer or a chef.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you,
Absolute pleasure.
Nicholas.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant.